obviously we are talking about social media marketing during COVID-19 as of March 26, 2020. This is a rapidly changing thing. We have some blog posts up. We put one up on the 13th, I believe. We put another one up around the 20th. Now it's the 26th. We continue to talk about changes during this. A lot of you put questions in. We still have we have a lot of the questions that came in from the form when you signed up. We had 20 questions submitted through that. So we will be getting into those questions. In fact, the way to add your own is to go to this Q&A button that you see down at the bottom and put your question in. If you can, give us some context as to what kind of business. You can either say the name of the business, or you can just say, you know, a small local retailer or something to give us a sense, because should you run content, should you run paid, that very much depends on who you are. So give us a little bit of that context. We are recording it. We will send this to you. You can also take screenshots of anything you find interesting. That's completely fine. Our 6 panelists here today: Deidre Bounds. Deidre is president of Ignite Social Media. She and I have worked together for about 20 years or so. I'm Jim Tobin. I'm founder of Ignite Social Media and Carousel. Carousel is our influencer program. Our marketing manager told me to not wear this shirt today, but I'm totally wearing this shirt today. So take that, Jen. Erin Ledbetter, who's our senior vice president of Carousel. Carousel is our influencer marketing team. So any influencer marketing questions will likely go to Erin. Missy McClellan. Missy is our senior vice president. She does all of our media buying, so can tell you what she's seeing on the platforms. She's also an analytics whiz kid genius there. Kathleen, who video refuses to work, is the manager of our content production, ironically. So she creates content for some of the best brands in the world. So what you should be creating, she'll have lots of input on that. And then Megan Hardy, who is at her local Taco Bell. She is in charge of our community management team, and they are just getting absolutely pounded right now. They're the people who you don't see responding to questions for lots and lots of different brands. So she's in the thick of it every day and every night, actually. So we've got lots of different disciplines covered for you. As I mentioned, we're going to go through some of the key questions you've already asked. We put some slides together for the themes that arose. This will take maybe 5 minutes, and then the rest of this time, as long as you want to stay on here up to the hour, we'll be answering your questions. So the 3 areas we'll cover before that: social media usage and ad spend. We have some statistics on that, the general watchouts we're seeing so far, and the general best practices. All right, so, and then we'll get into your questions answered live. So without further ado, social media usage, yes, if you think it's way up, it is. Facebook's not giving us any hard stats on total usage, but they have said it is unprecedented levels of usage. Hard-hit countries like Italy, they've given us some statistics that their messaging platforms are up 50% in the last month. Italy's had 70% more usage. Instagram and Facebook views doubled in a week. Twitter daily active users are up 23% year over year, and that doesn't sound like a lot, but remember, Twitter has been pretty flat for almost 2+ years. They've been flat on daily active users. So a 23% spike is significant for them. Pinterest broke all-time records up last week, and their send a pin usage shot up 34%. I did just see right before this started that Pokemon is making a 67% increase in money for Pokemon Go. They have changed it so you can use it in your own house, and apparently it's working. So anything to distract somebody right now, it's way up. Now, we did go through some of our own clients' pages, and we looked for how they were performing during this pandemic versus prior. So we found about a 60% median increase in engaged users on the sample of pages that we went through. But key industries, so think about utilities, grocers, retailers, things like that. Those key industries saw engagement or engaged users up over 800%. So people are definitely using this to talk back to brands. Similarly, daily page likes in those key industries were up over 500%. Another survey found 63% of people saying, yes, I expect to use Facebook more during the quarantines here. So the top charts, there's Zoom. Zoom stock is up 112% this year, while every other stock is down. So Zoom is really killing it and bringing us together today. And then otherwise, you see TikTok on here, you see Instagram on here, you see social media, you see getting together in some form or fashion, you see news. Those are the things, and entertainment. Those are the things that pop up as what people are doing now, as you might expect. Ad spend, though, is down. Both Facebook and Twitter have warned, as you see in these Ad Age articles to the right, have warned the Wall Street that their sales are down. And we're seeing that as well, but in any marketplace where there's more inventory, we're scrolling more, and less competition, supply and demand dictates that prices will go down. More inventory, less people trying to get that inventory, lower prices. In fact, that is what we see. We took 4 clients of ours and we looked at them in February versus March. One client saw a 37% decrease in CPM. You can read here, so I don't have to read these to you, but 20 to 60% decline in cost per thousand impressions. 30 some percent cost decrease in cost per click, and then cost per landing page view, which is this big long acronym here, somewhere between 34. There's Kathleen. Hi, Kathleen. Welcome. Um,
Hi.
a 40 to 50% decrease in the cost per landing page view. So if you are a buyer, this is a buyer's market. Now the question becomes, should you be a buyer? That is the tough question. Any content that isn't sensitive to social distancing, employee protection, or just generally, the current environment is getting negative reaction. We're seeing related products, and this one is not from one of our clients. Just for some reason, I get advertised pants all the time. I'm still wearing pants, but talk to me again next week. That could be out. Like online sale of pants, it's the same ad they were running before. They're running it now. Nobody's reacting negatively. It's shipped online. They're not telling me to come to a store. It's it's pants. Like nobody's reacting negatively to that. And online sales, you may have seen headlines that e-commerce is through the roof, but that is super unequal. You see over here in this Business Day article, Amazon, they're adding 100,000 employees. They're increasing their overtime pay from time and a half to double time. So Amazon's doing really well, but then other places, as you see in this Bloomberg article, not so much. E-commerce sales are down. This is for a company called Ratio Clothing. Stitch Fix and Third Love both saw their weekly sales drop 7%. So it really depends on what you're selling. Essentials are going through the roof, but sort of optional purchases or purchases that can be delayed are not as often doing as well. It's also important that you as a social media person talk to your company, talk to your logistics about what you're capable of doing and not doing. We have some clients where their warehouses have to close. So even though we're seeing their cost per landing page view and their cost for conversion improving dramatically, they can't send their employees in to ship it. Other factories are moving from what they used to make to producing, protective equipment and that sort of stuff. And so it's important that, yes, it's a buyer's market, but can you buy? Should you be selling? Can you fulfill what you sell? Those are questions at a company level, not just at a marketing question. And finally, some of the best practices that have come up, and this is our last slide before we get into questions, so do go into that Q&A. You can also upvote other questions in the Q&A. If you see one that's the same question you have or you think is a particularly good question, hit like and it'll move to the top. But Facebook's telling people pin important content to the top of your page. This is a good idea. It's really easy to do, but it's only going to have modest benefit. Most people will see your content in the news feed. They will not go to your main page and see it, but it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. It's easy. A small number of people will see it that way. This is a really good time to try unusual formats. You see all sorts of unusual things happening. Facebook Live videos, webinars, Q&As. The rules of, you have to get the whole message out in 15 seconds don't really apply anymore. As long as you have something useful to say, people are definitely spending time consuming that content. So try those different formats. The other thing is think about what questions you would have of your company in this sort of situation. And if you haven't already, pre-write those answers. And this is a tip really informed by what Megan sees every day. If you can't write an acceptable answer to a question you anticipate, you may need to change your business practices. And so, yes, a lot of us on this call are the social media people. We're not the CEOs. We're not the head of operations. We can't tell the client or the boss what to do, but maybe we can share, okay, so I've got these questions. Here's my answer so far to this question. Is this what you want me to say? That maybe having that conversation would let them see how it could come across, or they may have a better answer that you haven't thought of. And then lastly, you should be revisiting your content and your paid posts every day if you're a regular poster. We're doing this for every team. We meet every morning to go over every client to look at what they're up to and what we should be doing for them. But I recommend a team because some people, not necessarily just sort of the way they're built, but also the way they're personally responding to this crisis. Some people are getting really, really conservative, and some people are getting really, really aggressive. And if you have a team of a couple people bouncing stuff off there, you can maybe find the right idea versus relying on somebody who may either be too aggressive or too conservative right now. So using that small team is a helpful thing. Plus, we hear things from the different teams that no one individual could possibly know. So that's it. Just the last thing as we get to this poll. I just want to know, and if you're an agency, and this is what you're most commonly doing for your clients, but a brand, have you paused your social media marketing because of the crisis? Somewhat. We stopped all our paid, but we're still posting organically, or we stopped all our organic, but we're still running paid. I see some answers coming in. We stopped both paid and organic, or we haven't changed our strategy. So I'll give that a minute for some answers coming in. It's very interesting to watch them come in because it's almost like a horse race. One was out in front and now the other one's passing it. It looks like so far that it's the leader is we haven't changed our strategy, followed by we've stopped all paid, but we're still posting organically. So that's very interesting. I don't know if I would have guessed that, but that's what we're seeing from those of you who voted. So thank you. All right. And do use the Q&A, not the chat feature. So there are two buttons down below, Q&A and chat. Use Q&A for your questions because that's the one we're going to be able to keep track of. I'm not going to be able to look in both places. I'm barely going to be able to look in one. So with that, most of the answers are going to come from your panelists and their disciplines here. I'm going to start with some that we got coming in through the form you submitted. So I'll give you a little time to ask more through the Q&A panel here. So the first question is, how can companies show leadership beyond the bombardment of COVID-19 "we are here for you" emails? Who wants to take that? Deidre, Erin, Kathleen?
I will start. Please let me start. Please, please do not send the "we are here for you" email. I wanted to cry, really, because I'm a marketer. When I was getting, right when this first started, I mean, it was literally every single company that ever had my email address ever. Companies I haven't heard from in 10 years, or maybe have been going to my junk mail for 10 years. I have no idea. But every single one of them wanted to tell me the same 5 things that they're doing to protect, to address COVID-19. And they also wanted to share with me the 5 things that I could do to help them protect everybody from COVID-19. And those 5 things were the same 5 things that the CDC had been saying all week too. And it was just so ridiculous to be hearing the same thing. And my perspective is, if you don't have anything of value to add to a conversation, stay out of the conversation. And what was happening is, it was just every time one of those emails came in, I just started rolling my eyes. And it wasn't just me. I'm hearing it from everybody. People who know nothing about marketing are complaining about every company telling them the same thing, and they just don't care, and they just don't want to hear it anymore. And the companies that started sending that same email like a week after the companies that sent it to start with, they just looked like they were behind the times, and it became negative that they were then sending it. So I think, just whatever it is, the rule is, if you don't have something new or something of value to add to the conversation, just keep your mouth shut.
Erin, you hit unmute faster than me. You were faster on the clicker, but I would mirror exactly what you said. I think it's important that if your product doesn't add something to the conversation, something of value, or something, or a new way for your product to be used that companies can find value or efficiencies, just stay out of it, stay away from the conversation, and focus on communicating with your internal staff to tell them the top 5 things you're doing to stay healthy.
Excellent. So I like this question, and I think I'm going to start with you, Kathleen. I have a good feel for what to post, this person wrote, but between our whole creative team working from home and our leadership team focused on how to best manage during these times, cupboard is on the bare side. Is anyone else experiencing a dearth of information and creative to drive appropriate content? What tips do we have for creating content when we're all at home?
Oh my gosh, I feel this question. Um, I think there are actually a lot of options. So don't feel like you're going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel while we're here for these unforeseen times. Some of you might be lucky in that your content creator grabbed a bin of props and products on their way out the door, thinking that they might have to plan for this and that your product might fit well in a work from home situation and they can still create content. That's the best case scenario. But if that's not the case, I think you can look into assets that you already have that are existing, maybe some things that you haven't posted yet, to keep your content looking fresh. You can also go back and look at assets and posts that have just performed really, really well for you in the past. Dig up some old reports and see what your audience really respond to. Obviously, you're going to have to tweak it for the times that we're living in right now. But the good news is that people's attention span on social is pretty short, so they probably won't even notice that they've seen it before. And even if they have, they responded to it positively in the past, and they're not going to be mad about seeing it again. I think another way that you could just repurpose some existing creative is to also go back and look at those posts that did really well for you, but have your creative people just reimagine those, tap into their creativity. That's what they're here for. Just think of different ways you can repost photos, maybe turn them into videos, turn them into Instagram stories, deliver them on different channels, and really just extend the life of the content that you already have at your fingertips. And then I think too, if you're not doing this already, is to really look at user-generated content. Go out on Instagram, go out on Facebook, browse some hashtags, see what people are already posting about your brand, and see if you can request permission to reuse those assets in your new content. And if you see that you might have a lack of people posting those things, the new content that you're creating can kind of prompt them to create this content for you. People are at home and they're bored right now, so they just might be more than willing to do it.
Yeah, and to add on to that community aspect, not just UGC, but even their actual comments. We were able to take comments that people were sending to us and create content with that, saying, we hear you. Like, we are with you, we are hearing this, and we were able to just then repurpose other assets with that, but it feels brand new and it's very relevant to what people are saying in this moment.
And not only that, but people have just been straight up telling us what they want to hear from us, and that takes a lot of the thinking out of it.
Excellent. And speaking of talking back, Megan, this one's going to come to you. This person writes, I know it's important to respond to all comments on social media, so we can talk about whether it is or isn't in this particular environment if you have to respond to everyone. But should we be responding to sensitive comments concerning the pay of our employees? Example, we're a retailer staying open because we sell household essentials such as cleaning, hygiene, and food products. Customers are commenting a lot about how we need to close down or pay our employees more.
Yes, we're very familiar with this one. So I think that this is one of those cases where, especially depending on volume, if this is the majority of your comments, if most of the comments are negative, people saying, why aren't you doing this? You should do this. And you aren't going to be able to answer with, we hear you, we're actually going to shut down for the safety of our employees. It's probably best not to touch it for the most part, just because you're going to fuel the fire. That's what we tend to learn in these situations, where if you cannot fix it or give them what they want, you are pretty much going to make it worse by going in there and giving them some like, but we love our employees and we're doing this thing for them, because it's usually not enough for the ones that are angry enough to be in there screaming at you all day about closing.
And it is a really emotional issue right now. If your spouse is one of those employees and you're really worried about them getting sick or them bringing it back to a family member, it's unlikely a partial answer will make that emotion go away. And it's not a typical, you shipped me the wrong size kind of thing we're hearing. So speaking of that, I'm going to come to you, Deidre. How do we how do we make people think with us if we are open and they say we have arranged for counter pickup and curbside pickup, are we missing anything?
I will answer that, but I just want to add something to the previous question. I think brands have to be careful about setting employees up internally to try to answer these questions so it doesn't appear like it's coming from them, but it may be coming from someone within the organization who might be one of those frontline employees. Don't don't try to set it up. Just don't answer, don't respond, don't try to find somebody in your company to respond on behalf of the company from their personal accounts and those kinds of things. So I just want to add that because I think there are oftentimes, a desire to want to respond, but want to respond sort of quasi anonymously. Don't do it. All right, now what was the question, Jim? I'm sorry, I was talking too much.
How do we be more comfortable shopping with us? We've arranged for counter pickup and curbside pickup. Are we missing anything?
Yeah, I think, again, depending on the products you're selling and how much foot traffic you may be receiving, a couple of things that would come to mind for me as a consumer is, if it's something that's essential to me, if it's closer to the front of the store, that would be great so that I'm not having to walk through aisles and aisles to get to what I need. So if you know that there are certain kinds of things that people are more apt to purchase, bring those closer to the front of the store. I'd also consider doing some kind of signage that says, "Hey, one person at a time down an aisle," or two people, depending on how long the aisles are. If you're offering curbside pickup or shipping, I would again try to encourage folks to use those resources rather than coming in. If you, like me, live in Michigan, where we have an order that we are actually not even legally allowed to leave our homes. Um, you know, there's people aren't going out anyway, but if you're in one of those cities or states where this kind of these laws or these rules don't apply to you, I would just do everything I can to make customers feel comfortable that there's enough distance between them and the person next to them, whether that's a line outside and you're only letting a few people in at a time, or you use the signage, and also, you might even do things like, brainstorming through social with your frequent customers to find out what would make them feel comfortable about coming into your space and make themselves feel safe being in that space.
I can chime in with a little bit more too, because that's another way that your community insights are really going to work for you. A lot of people are naturally sharing that the places that they love and shop at have curbside pickup and delivery, and they're sharing that on their own social channels because people are really just sharing more than ever now. And you can really just repurpose that content to help get the word out from the people that are actually consuming your services at this point.
Excellent. Missy, I've got a two-parter for you. These are actually two
Ooh.
different questions, but I feel like they can work together. One is
Okay.
simple. Should I be running paid media right now? Well, it's a short question. It's not a simple question. And then the second one is, which I think might align in some way, is what is the biggest bang for your buck in advertising right now?
Okay. So that is a short question, long answer. So of course it depends if you should be doing paid right now. I know a lot of people are very hesitant to hit that button, hit go, but we have things to remedy that. The market, as Jim stated, it's an auction. So you are going to get a big bang for your buck on any auction type platform, including Facebook and Instagram. So keep that in mind. And the other thing to think about is that you don't have to take $1,000 and spend it in 5 minutes. You can slowly test the platforms and see the response you get. What we've been doing every single day, and I know this sounds like you're overdoing it, but if you are overdoing it right now, you probably are doing this right. So we check all our comments, and not only organic, but also paid, to see the reaction. So think about that when you hit go. You can hit go, you can closely check for the response. Of course, make sure all the things Kathleen is saying about your content are correct, but you never know how people are going to react. So test carefully and think about it carefully. So with respect to turning it on, I just want to say that one thing about hitting that go button. The other thing too with that is think about your objective. What a lot of people now are doing, if you're familiar with the platforms, instead of doing a conversion campaign where you're selling something directly, because that can appear at times insensitive, if you tweak your message to something closer to what we've been talking about, switch those objectives to something like reach or awareness, as long as you are being helpful and you're mindful of the state that day. So keep up to speed on what's happening by going to various websites, getting different opinions, as Jim said, from different individuals. And the other thing with the paid is watch your target audiences. What's really important right now, what we've seen, is that different groups are being impacted differently. So if you have an age group that's a little bit older, we don't say they're elderly, we say they have more data points, right? It's the correct way to say it. We don't want to offend anyone. But if you are in groups where they're being hit harder at risk, excluding those targets, turning them off, just being very mindful that those settings can be adjusted in the digital space. The other thing to think about too in that same vein is different geographies being impacted. So we all know New York is getting hit pretty hard, California, Michigan, where we're at isn't too far down the list either. So think about the geographies and maybe excluding those and just being really, really sensitive about your targeting. And the last thing I'll say is there's probably some spaces that are safer right now. Pinterest usage is up. People are feeling safe and comforted going there. It's a little more mindless, not so much news happening. So think about the platforms that you can use as well. You have flexibility there. So be vigilant, check every day to see what's happening, get a group together, a huddle to think about how to approach it and test.
Yeah, I just want to add that everything Missy said, do all that, but don't be scared of advertising right now. There was some data that came out from Global Web Index that, yeah, there were some people that said, I don't want to hear from brands right now, but it certainly wasn't anywhere near the majority of the people that were surveyed. I want to say it was like right around 30% maybe. And, you know, we have, I'll just give you one example. We have a travel campaign. We were in the middle of a spring break travel campaign that was running for a client. And everyone, the U.S. shut down travel, and we're targeting people in the U.S. to buy stuff that can help them travel. So that sounds like we have to shut it down, right? But what was really interesting is we looked at the content, we tweaked it to acknowledge what's going on in the world, and we, like Missy said, changed the objective a little bit, changed the messaging a little bit, and we watched it every single day. And what we're seeing is people are very positive in their responses to this content. We have yet to see a negative response to any of the content. Now, on the other hand, you know, I saw an ad from Southwest around the same time that we were trying to make the decisions of whether we keep this going or not. And Southwest is like, hey, we're running a $49, we're running our $49 sale. Come buy a ticket on an airplane. And they were getting hammered. 4,000, 5,000 comments of people just, who do you think you are, trying to convince us to get on a plane right now? So again, I don't want to scare anyone away from advertising right now. Like we've said, it could be not only effective but very efficient. You just have to, you know, watch what you're doing and make sure you're paying attention to the responses you're getting.
Yeah, great. And I would just add, and this is, I'm going to caveat this by saying it sounds a little Machiavellian, but I don't mean it that way. When you look at data coming out of the Great Depression in the 1920s and 30s, after it was all over, about a third of the people had suffered very dramatically negative effects. About a third of the people had about the same lifestyle as they had prior to it, and about a third of the people had vastly improved positions in life. In fact, it was the fastest rate of generating millionaires in the history of the United States, adjusted for, you know, constant dollars. And so there will be, and again, I know how Machiavellian it is. I'm not saying go run. I'm just saying there are opportunities, and some people you see, you know, Amazon's hiring 100,000 people. You do that when things are good for you. So I think you have to analyze if you have something people are likely to consume more. and they want to buy it, that's okay. Putting it in front of them can be okay, provided you do it the right way. Now, Erin, I'm going to come back to you. We have two questions I'm going to combine into one. One is, should I consider partnering with influencers? And then similarly, but I know how we consider influencers different than this next question, what are the feelings on athletes and celebrities doing brand posts during this time, or does it depend on the brand, message, and product?
Yeah, I do think it depends on the brand message and product, like we just talked about. Do you have anything of value to add to the conversation? Or are you being sensitive to the way people are feeling? Now, do you partner with influencers and or celebrities and athletes? You actually need to look at what are they out there saying right now. You know, there are influencers who are, and athletes and so on, who are continuing to work with brand messaging. You know, they're being sensitive to what's happening in the world, but you can pretty clearly tell when you go on someone's social accounts, you can see where are they on the spectrum about how they're feeling about this. Or are they one of those that's panicked? Are they one of those that is kind of like, this is a hand I've been dealt and I'm just rolling with the times? You know, what is their personal feelings and personal impact on this? You know, you can venture to guess that the people who follow them will be in tune with how they personally are feeling and responding to the situation. So if they're going to post on a brand's behalf, it needs to be in line where it would be authentic, that the litmus test we always use, I think, still applies today. Would this person, whoever it is, influencer, athlete, whoever, would they post and share what we're asking them to share if we weren't paying them to do so? And if the answer to that is yes, then yeah, I think you can absolutely continue to work with them. There's some data that came out, I want to say it was earlier this week, where people were, survey responses where people were saying, yeah, you know, we see influencers, and this is influencers, not celebrities and athletes, but we see them as a small business and they need to make money right now too. We get it. I'm not turned off if there's an ad in their feed, because we understand that is their business. So I think as long as you run it through that litmus test of, hey, would they post this, given their personal opinions and their lifestyle and that kind of thing, whether or not we were paying them, and the answer to that question is yes, I absolutely think you can keep working with them.
Great. And I'm going to put this out there to anyone who wants to answer. Let me know just by coming off mute. We have a lot of questions coming in, so we're gonna go all the way to 3 o'clock and try and get through all your questions. We are Iron Flask, a water bottle company selling bottles around the U.S. through Amazon. I was wondering if our content on social media should be all devoted to the situation. We are worried it would be the main message, and that would drive people away.
I think this is a great, actually, I think it's a great example. Kind of relates back to your pants example that you shared before, Jim. You know, I don't know, and again, this is off the top of my head, someone else jump in, but I don't know what a water bottle company has to say related to COVID at all, positive or negative, you know? So, you know, I would say that as long as you are, I think if you were to, in your content, to start commenting on the situation, people would be like, why? What do you have to add? You have nothing of value to add here. Now, if you guys are, you know, changing your manufacturing to, you know, supply personal protective equipment or something like that, absolutely, like, share that. People want to know. Obviously, don't try to sell a water bottle in that post. You know, but if you have something of value to add like that, sure, say it. But if you don't have anything of value to add to the COVID conversation, I don't see why a post, you know, promoting a water bottle to buy on Amazon would turn anyone away right now. It just, you know, okay, it's another product. It's pants in my newsfeed. It's, you know, that's normal.
Yeah, I've mostly been seeing that things like that, such as, I don't know, beauty or, you know, water bottles, things of that nature, they're really not getting any negative comments. People are still buying. People are sitting around kind of bored. Some people, you know, they want to shop, or I love to emotionally shop on Amazon, so they're probably doing that as well. So I think as long as you're just careful with your messaging, just make sure whatever you're saying couldn't be taken in a wrong way, or that it's sensitive to what the person who's seeing that is going through. Maybe they just got laid off, maybe their kids are driving them nuts. Just think about the mindset of these people and kind of do a gut check with some people. Like, do we think anyone would take this in a crazy way? Obviously, it's the internet. People can probably take anything in a crazy way, but just really thinking about it. And then but I think with that kind of product, you'd probably be pretty safe overall.
I would add also that if you were doing something different with your bottles, that filtered water, or you were adding some kind of special something to them, particularly with the shortage of bottled water these days, people might be more apt to purchase the water bottles because they want filtered water, but there may not be an easy way of them getting that. And then I would also say if you felt compelled to, and if it were easy enough to do, to add some kind of personal message to each Amazon delivery or something like that, that just kind of made people feel a little closer to you, something that was genuine sounding and feeling in nature might be another way for you to just get a little closer to your customers during this time.
Excellent. I'm going to start with this one, answering this one, and then anyone else who wants to jump in. This is about public policy issues. It is considering continuing our current content promotion strategy considered insensitive during this time. Our content is relevant to current policy issues in our state, but the concern is that some may find the content to be irrelevant or disregarding of the present condition of our nation and state. I do have a political background, used to work in politics for a while. I feel like it depends on what the issue is, of course, but I think it is also a timing thing. Right now, last week, this week, people are very, very sensitive to all of this. And I think if it's something that you wanted, I know you said it was a state issue, but if you wanted Congress to pay attention to something, Congress is paying attention to one thing right now, and it's the CARES program, the $2 trillion stimulus package. And I think you have to think about the same thing in your state. Is the legislature even able to meet those sorts of things? I think, though, in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, people are going to look for some sort of return to normalcy, not necessarily leaving the house, but in everything else we're doing, what does normal look like? So I think depending on what the issues are, it's potentially a good time to just pause and take a breather. And then, as Missy said earlier, you can look at reactions as you sort of ease back into things. You know, maybe small dollar promotions of posts geo-targeted within your state, and then looking at responses. We've had clients who get thousands of responses, and they don't take any change. They don't change anything in what they're doing. We had one brand where we got one response that wasn't even all that negative, and we took the ad down because we thought they were right. What the person's response was actually right. And so I think, you know, you can feel your way through and then just have some sort of empathy as to the response we're getting. Is it time to talk about this issue, or is the time for that issue later? And if we wait, do we still have time to talk about that issue? You know, the election, as far as we know, will still be held in November. So in October, we're probably going to need to talk about the election. So those kind of factors, I think, would come into play on that. I don't see anyone else off mute, so I will go to the next question. How do you balance on the line of using COVID as a marketing opportunity and being empathetic? For example, using hashtag COVID-19 in a tweet. We are a software company, so should we stay out of the conversation entirely? I think Megan or Kathleen probably have strong opinions on this.
Yeah, we probably have the same opinion. I would say, I mean, unless it's like you're really helping as a company, you're donating something, I just don't think I would use that hashtag in your marketing, and I don't think I would try to use it for any kind of real marketing. I would just stay away from that.
I totally agree
Yeah,
with that.
I use that hashtag. I use that hashtag to promote this webinar because it is about COVID-19. But otherwise, I agree with Kathleen and Megan. This is one we have a little bit of experience in. We do have some tourism clients. Is now a good time for a tourism business to do social media? If so, what is the most effective messaging?
I can definitely take this one. So as far as tourism goes, I think absolutely you shouldn't just drop everything that you're doing because of what's going on right now, because we all are staying optimistic and just really hoping that we can get out there and explore the world after this is all over. That said, you should absolutely reevaluate what plans you had on the table before this all started and see if you can tweak that to what's going to be really valuable to your audience at this time. With the experience that we've had with our current tourism client, we've seen that when we post content that's sort of like a welcome daydream, some escapism, just a little nugget of happiness that people can really enjoy to kind of get out of the heavy news that's all over their news feeds right now. People have really appreciated that, and they've responded really well to that type of content. So I think it's absolutely okay to be producing things like that, and your community is probably going to welcome that, and they'll tell you that. Also, this could be a good place for Pinterest as well. I know Missy touched on that a little bit, but if you're able to deliver any of this content in a format that's going to work on the Pinterest platform, that's good too, because it'll actually keep you top of mind in people's travel plans when they are actually able to make the plans and start purchasing.
All right. So here's a tough one. We manage social for a property and casualty insurance company, which obviously offers business insurance to small businesses. Our client is pushing to begin posting positive and inspirational content. It feels insensitive while they're being so impacted, and coverage excludes viruses. And there is already so much content about best practices for businesses right now. Do we go dark? Who wants in on that one? See, that's a popular
I'll
question.
take it because I see everyone look. All right. So, you know, I understand why the inspirational content might feel a little bit off. Um, you know, I do think, and especially if the coverage does not include viruses, I could see that. You know, I do wonder if there might be if the client's not comfortable going dark, because I agree, again, if it, like I've said before, if you have nothing of value to add to the conversation, be quiet. But I could also maybe make the argument for, we're a business partner for you. And so we are going to share information that is what any business partner might do. So maybe there is information sharing or did you know type stuff unrelated to the product. Obviously, let's just stay away from product conversations if your product doesn't help. You know, but maybe there's some thought leadership content that is just in support of clients that could be helpful. I don't know if there is. And again, if you have nothing of value to add, go dark. But if you could come up with something and you want to keep talking, that might be an option.
I agree with Erin. If it's helpful, it's probably worth having a presence out there, but that's one that's an area where definitely monitoring the comments if you do post something is very important. And as Jim said, if you see even one comment and it's substantiated, turn it off.
I'm going to stay in the insurance realm for a second because we have another pretty similar question. We work with a health insurance company, and we have obviously switched our strategy to more COVID-19 messaging, like what we cover in terms of telehealth and other member-focused messages. Should we hold on promoting other services during this time, like retirement for our Medicare members, Medicaid messaging, etc.? Missy?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't necessarily, I think you can adjust your budgets accordingly and focus on the areas that are relevant, but people are still going to retire and people are still going to be needing other services. So adjust your dollars accordingly. But as we talked before, and quite a few of us had mentioned, you know, the market is very efficient right now and could use the ad dollars. So again, test it with a small budget. Adjust your budget accordingly. But I don't see a good reason. Curious to see what others think on that one to stop with the other products and services.
I would just add, oh, sorry, Kathleen. I was just going to say, you know, if if the company has some helpful or useful information to share that helps people through this, so besides, you know, wash your hands, but if there are things that people need to know that helps them navigate through the system, helps them navigate how to, um, you know, whether they should be getting multiple months worth of prescriptions, and is the healthcare company covering that for them? If they if there are things that can be shipped to a consumer, I think anything that's helpful or useful that makes their customers' lives easier those are the kinds of information and things that they should be sharing, in addition to what Missy said. But I think for a healthcare insurer, you can't stay away from the conversation. I don't think this is one of those times when you can go dark and not say anything about what's going on. It's directly in their backyards.
Excellent, thank you. In a second, I'm going to ask all of you about effective ways to collect consumer emails other than website signups. So think about that while we start with this question that I'm gonna take a start at. I'm in university communications and marketing. How can we continue to generate content with campus shutdown? How do we continue to recruit new students, engage with current students, as well as alumni and donors? So I'm going to start with this. Kathleen probably has a perspective because I have a junior in high school. She was supposed to this month, next month, go see the schools she thinks are on her list. So we have started doing things like pulling up YouTube, actually on the TV, on a Fire Stick, and putting in different schools and taking the tours that way. One school had very bad content, and that school actually was eliminated by my daughter, who just didn't get the right vibe. One school had great content. I did see yesterday Duke sent out something saying we have a virtual tour, sign up and take it. My daughter was eager to sign up so that the school knew she had toured, because that's a factor. You know, so and she wanted to get the virtual tour experience as well. At the same time, a lot of noteworthy people from the school, whether it's an athletics coach, the school president, filming messages from home to the students, to the alumni. That's being very well received in my experience. And earlier, Kathleen mentioned, you know, you've got content, you've already produced, you know, videos of your school. Just you can cut them up again from your home with your computer. You can do a voiceover. People will forgive if it's not perfect right now. You know, everybody's in this same boat, and acknowledging, you know, we edited this video quickly together because we know you, class of 20, whatever, 25 or whatever they are interested in a tour right now. So we put this together for you. I think that would go a long way.
You said that really well, Jim. I love that.
I'm very passionate about this particular topic at this particular moment. We're a small manufacturer, wholesale, with a new focus on direct-to-consumer. What methods of collecting consumer emails other than website signups are worthwhile? That's a tough one. That's why I sort of gave you a minute to think about it while I babbled about college. All right, I'm gonna have to babble about this, I guess. It's tough. Some of the ways we have found things to work well in the past for email collections have been offers and sweepstakes. Now, doing them right now could seem really tone deaf. This is not necessarily a great time for sweepstakes, but the other possibility is you know, doing something free now, so absorbing a cost now for a value later. And this is not a great example because you mentioned you're a DTC wholesale manufacturer, so you're actually making a physical product and your cost structure is very different from this example. But I know Peloton is offering 90-day free use of their app, which has very little incremental cost for them. But you know, I don't think you have to put in a credit card, do you, Aaron? You signed up. No, you don't even have to put in a credit card, but you certainly put in your email so they can, you know, contact you and hope to get you addicted over these 90 days, and then, you know, start paying their $12.99 a month or whatever. Otherwise, you know, Crocs is offering 10,000 free shoes a day to healthcare workers, and obviously you sign up to get that. I think, you know, barring doing something that's really interesting and on tone, it's going to be tough. I don't think I have a magic answer for that one, and no one else came off mute, so I'm assuming they don't have magic answers either. All right, somebody better have a magic answer for this next question. How do you think this affects money transfer business? Our client is stopping all marketing while we, the agency, is recommending the opposite as we see it an opportunity for them.
I would think so. I think what's really interesting about a lot of these digital companies is and even things, look at like Instacart, for example, grocery delivery. A lot of these services that have gone digital, including money transfer, which is, you know, you used to just be able to hand somebody cash. Who has cash anymore? So I really think that all these services that have gone digital that had kind of slow adoption in terms of, you know, consumers generally, this whole situation has really forced that adoption and trial. Every single day I'm hearing new people talk about how they've tried Instacart, how they've tried Walmart grocery pickup. They've just never done that before. And I do think that money transfer in particular is one that a lot of people just have a little hesitation around. And in a situation like this where either A, you can't see people face to face, or maybe you just don't want to pass cash because that's nasty, you know, that they might opt for that and might be interested, and you might actually see a lot of trial right now. So again, if you as long as you look at everything you're putting out there through the lens of, is there any way that this could be misconstrued or taken like we're trying to take advantage of the situation? If you're really just offering a service that could be of help right now, which I absolutely think money transfer could be, I don't see why you would stop.
I think if you can share practical uses for it. So I'll give you an example. One way that I was trying to help the economy was I prepaid for hair services um, through Cash App. And, you know, for me, it was easy. Didn't have to leave my house to do it. I'm still contributing and helping my community. But, you know, if you think about, there's lots of pushes for ordering from local restaurants and supporting them and being able to use, you know, a payment transfer service to do those kinds of things would be helpful. So if there's a way to show practical uses for these types of cash transfer services, I think more people are likely to use them. They're easy. They're easy to set up, but it's really about, you know, as Aaron said, people are getting more used to them. But if you can show people how easy it is and why it's very practical for them in what's happening today, I think they'd be more likely to use it. So therefore, you should talk about it, and you should talk about it in a way that people can relate to.
All right, I think I'm going to start with Megan for this. This has been asked twice, so I'm going to read you both ways it was asked. Megan, should I post more often? And this is Kathleen too. Should I post more often now that more people are working from home? Is the first way it was asked. The second way, is there a social cadence you recommend during this time? Posting every day, every other day? Does it depend on the industry?
Probably not going to like the answer, but yes, it depends on the industry. But ultimately, to me, it depends on what you have to say and what you're offering. Like we're talking about, if you're just putting up ads every day because you know people are going to see them, it's probably not the most helpful thing to be doing. But if you actually have authentic content that you think is going to resonate, you know, it's okay if you are going to post every day if you have the bandwidth and you're giving something of value. I wouldn't just post because there's eyeballs out there right now. I would still be really mindful of what you're putting up. And I also would say if your team is like really stretched thin, it's okay to go down in cadence a little bit right now and not kill everybody to just put out content for the sake of putting out content. Really focus on a few key pieces every week and then put those out there.
I would say too, I know we don't have a perfect answer across the board for all of this, but I would just say that generally in all of the clients that we work with, I would say we've slowed down our posting frequency just because this is a situation that none of us have been in before, including our audiences. So we're just really having to test and learn along with them and seeing the kind of content that they want to see from us and how they respond to that and using that to inform our next steps.
One just tip to add here. So one of the things I am seeing, industry that is posting every single day right now and posting organically is a lot of retailers and restaurants. And they're using social to keep people up to date with what's going on. Their hours are changing, the things they're doing. Harris Teeter, which is a local grocery store chain here, they're a Kroger banner. They just started putting up plexiglass that, you know, separates the person checking out from the cashier. It's really protecting both of them. New thing that they just posted about today, which I think, again, has something new and interesting and helpful to add to the conversation, was great. But one of the things you can do, at least in Facebook, is you can set an expiration for a post. And I think that's really important to know if you are a retailer or a restaurant who might have things that are changing. You don't want to take down the old post, but if yesterday you posted that you open at, 9 o'clock, and today you're posting that, hey, we're actually going to open at 8, but only for seniors, you might want to set an expiration to that we're opening at 9 o'clock post, because both of those could still be showing up in the news feed, and then all of a sudden we've got information that's showing up in people's feeds that they're not recognizing as old. So it's just a watch out if you have that kind of stuff that you're posting. Go ahead and use that expiration feature, at least on Facebook.
All right, last two questions because we've only got a couple minutes left. Neither one is about social media specifically. So first one, your opinion about changing Google ad copy to specifically mention the quarantine and the usefulness of our products during this time. I'll start with that. I'll look for others to come off mute. My thinking is you'll probably get feedback in the form of performance, either better clicks or worse clicks, and better conversion or worse conversion. I would be very cautious about it. I'm not sure exactly what the product is and how it ties into a quarantine, but if you feel like it resonates and it's okay and it's thoughtful, you can certainly try it. People can't clap back. They're unlikely to share it with someone else, so you're unlikely to, unless you're really awkward, you're unlikely to go viral with the attempt. So I think it's a relatively low risk effort. Missy?
And I'll just add to that, with this one in particular, a good idea here is what we've said before. Change the ad copy before you make it live. Check with a group of people to see if they're seeing something you might not be seeing.
And the last one, and it's not social media, but several of us in this group have past lives where we've done this. Will print ads be at all valuable during this time? What's the group's attitude toward print right now?
So I have a thought on this one.
Okay.
I thought about this one. Jim, you called me kid earlier, but I've been around a while. No, don't tell anyone. But yeah, so with that one, my worry with print is you can't pivot very quickly unless things have changed dramatically. So if you put something into print and you distribute it, things are changing so rapidly, but by the time it gets out there, things may have changed and you can't pivot. With things like digital, you can. So that's my feedback with print. I would pause a little bit more with print unless your situation makes it so that you can, but with that one I would hesitate because you aren't able to have the flexibility you do with social.
Absolutely. As recently as 2 days ago, we got things for my daughter to come to open houses at colleges. We know those open houses aren't happening anymore, but they're still showing up in our mail, as recently as 2 days ago. So with that, we're at an hour. Thank you all for your time. I hope this was helpful for you. Watch your inbox for recordings of this. If you have any interest in TikTok, we did a webinar on that 2 days ago. You can find that on our website as well and watch that recording at your leisure. Until next time, everybody stay safe. Take care.